This is just an amazing piece Larry Beinhart published in Alternet today titled "The Astonishing Stupidity of Not Raising Taxes on the Rich When Budgets Are Tight." About how every time in American history taxes on people making more than $2 or $3 million in today's dollars are over 50%. Those people decide to keep their money in their businesses, and their businesses grow slowly and steadily, and the economy is stable. From the founding of this country until 1932, when Herbert Hoover raised taxes to 33% of the rich, every 15 years, or less, in some cases it was as little as 6 or 7 years, we had a major economic crash, either a bank failure or a stock market panic. The stock market panic of 1847 arguably led right to the Civil War. The banking failure of 1773 arguably led to the American Revolution. I think I mentioned the Spanish-American War in 1897, as I recall. I could be wrong on that. I don't know as much about the Spanish-American War as I do about the American Revolution. But in any case, the bottom line is that whenever tax rates on the very rich are over 50%, now that doesn't mean that they pay 50% on the first $100,000. They don't. They pay the same as everybody else. Or the first 50,000, they don't. They pay, in the first 10, 20,000, they pay nothing. This is the top marginal rate. They don't start paying this tax rate until they start making $2 or $3 million, and they don't pay it on any of the money that they made under that. It's only the money they make after that. So they make up to $2 or $3 million. This is why CEOs during the Eisenhower administration, the Republican Dwight Eisenhower, during the Republican Richard Nixon administration, this is why CEOs made 30 times what their workers make, because they kept their money in their corporations. I mean, why bother taking it out if you're going to pay 91% in income tax? And it was the first time in the history of America that we went more than 14 years without a bank panic. We went from 1932 until 1986 without a bank panic. And in 1985, Ronald Reagan dropped those taxes. And in 1986, sure enough, of course, he deregulated the S&Ls in 82. So it crashed and burned. Now, the one lesson out of the S&L, he appointed Bill Seidman, a good Republican, just died last year, brilliant guy from Grand Rapids, Michigan, where I was born. And I have a lot of affection and a lot of respect for Bill Seidman. And Ronald Reagan appointed him head of the Resolution Trust Corporation to do something about the S&L crisis. Bill Seidman put over 2,000 bankers in prison. Where's Bill Seidman when you need him now? This was back maybe 5 years ago, that whenever tax rates on the wealthy, on people making more than $1 million, $2 million, $3 million a year, whenever those tax rates go above 50%, you do not have bubble economies, you don't have bank failures. From the history of this country, from the founding of this country until the top tax rates on wealthy people were raised in 1932 by Herbert Hoover up to 70-some-odd%, we never went more than 15 years without a major bank failure or stock market crash. Never happened. Or it happened every 15 years or less. Constantly we were having financial panics. One of those financial panics arguably led directly to the Civil War. One just in 1773-74 arguably led to the Boston Tea Party and to the American Revolution. One of them arguably led to the Spanish-American War in 1897, that would have been, if my memory serves me right, late 19th century. So, anyhow, Larry Beinhart laid out that when taxes on people who make over a couple $1 million are above 50%, they tend not to take that money out personally and throw it into risky investments and gamble with it. And they tend not to create bubble economies as a consequence of it. Instead, they leave it in their businesses, and they slowly, stably, carefully build their businesses. And you have what we had in the United States when the top tax rate was 91% through the last year of the Hoover administration, all of the Franklin Delano Roosevelt administration, all of the Harry Truman administration, all 8 years of the Dwight Eisenhower administration, the 3 years of the Jack Kennedy administration, the 5 years of the Lyndon Johnson administration, and it was always above 50%. LBJ dropped it down to 74% in his first year. But he closed up so many loopholes that the rich actually were paying more. So you get that, and then the LBJ administration, and right up until Reagan, the Clinton administration, right up until Reagan was elected, and then we went back on the roller coaster. Well, Larry Beinhardt has a new piece out. It's over at Alternet. It's called "The Astonishing Stupidity." Mr. John Boehner and Mr. President Barack Obama. The astonishing stupidity of not raising taxes on the rich when budgets are tight. He points out how in 32, Hoover, in response to the third year of the Great Depression, raised the top tax rate from 25%, where it had been during the last 9 years under 3 Republican presidents. It was at 91%, keep in mind, at the end after World War II, when Woodrow Wilson left office in 1920, in March of 1921. He was replaced by Warren Harding. Warren Harding came in and in his first year, dropped that down to 25%. And what happened? An immediate explosion in land values in Florida. This huge speculation that was going on. There were literally people standing on the corner in the major streets in Florida, standing on corners, buying and selling mortgages. This spread up the East Coast. It spread up through Georgia, through the Carolinas, through D.C., all the way to New York, and it spread out toward the Midwest into Ohio, as far as Ohio. And it caught fire in California. This wild speculation in property values. In addition to that, the stock market started exploding because the tax rate on millionaires and billionaires was only 25%, so they had lots of, they could pull all this money out and gamble with it. Well, it crashed in 32. So Hoover finally got religion and raised it to 63% in 1932. Guess what happens? The GNP rises 7.7%, and unemployment falls from 35% down to 21% by 34. New taxes are added in 35 with Social Security, and guess what happens that year? GNP grows another 8.1%, unemployment continues to fall. 36, FDR raises the top tax rate to 79%. GNP grows a record 14.1%. Unemployment falls further. And then the ultimate, of course, government stimulus program, spending hundreds of billions of dollars, trillions of dollars in today's money, fighting World War II. But arguably by 39, we went into World War II in 41, and by 39 we were out of the Great Depression by raising taxes on the rich. We could eliminate all of these cuts by just going back to raising taxes on the rich.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
And not even raising them that much. We wouldn't even have to go half as far as Republicans like Dwight Eisenhower and Richard Nixon did.